Hello, my name's John Thorne from Silverstone Shooting Centre, and yes, I'm afraid the title is correct. I have now been thrown out of the UK PSA for reporting what I believe was illegal activity. Now, I'm afraid it's a long story, so sit down, get your popcorn out and go through the details. Now I'm out of the UK PSA, there's nothing they can threaten me with, so I thought I'll share all of it. This time, I'm not accusing the UK PSA, I'm talking about individual people, which I'm going to name and shame now in the video. So sit down and welcome for all of it. Now, for this story to go on, I've got to go back nearly 2.5 years. We've been involved, and I've been a member of the UK PSA for several years, and I will admit our relationship was difficult in as much that we hosted a level 3 mini rifle match, one of the first in the UK ever, and it was awkward. It was awkward because I had members of the UK PSA, people like Dave Joy, come up to our range and literally rip the thing to pieces. We did the match. And after the range was ripped to pieces, we had to put it back together again, which took us 2 days. At this time, the filming was done with a company called Gunroom TV. Remember them? They did some filming, and they universally slagged off the match as well to anyone who listened to us. So I came to the conclusion that a match that we weren't being thanked for, that was ripped to pieces in terms of the range, lost us money, and the way they treated myself, my staff, and everyone here wasn't worth the grief. So he quietly said, you know what, not for us anymore, we're not going to do it again. Now, this is something that's been repeated by a lot of ranges over the years, who have hosted a match, put it together, and then found out the whole thing is painful. But we moved on, we carried on shooting, we did our own thing, and I was very happy. There's been various conversations I've had with people there where I had concerns about how training was now simply a revenue stream for certain people and for certain things. And I've maintained that position now, but it carries on as it is, as a process. Now, that's what we're doing now, is just carrying on with their training, and there are people like Dave Smith making significant thousands of pounds of training people, and that's what I want to do, that's fine by them. Doesn't seem the sort of thing that I think we should do as an association, but then we'll leave that as a side. So I kept out of the way, carried on shooting, did my own little thing, no issues at all. And then I noticed that Callum Long Collins became elected treasurer of UK PSA. I don't really pay much attention, I don't involve elections at all. And I was somewhat surprised to see that Callum was voted a committee council member of UK PSA. Now, Callum is a director of Magload. The same company owns Gunroom TV. And I was just surprised that someone of his type had been elected as a committee member. Now, when I say his type, it's absolutely clear. I have no personal dealings, or ever had, frankly, with Callum or Connors from Magload. But at the time, and as I speak now, and going back several years, Callum had his licence removed from him by his local police force. Now, what happened, allegedly, was Callum beat up his girlfriend in a pub car park. The police were called, a crime was alleged, and his firearms were removed from him. Now, like a lot of domestic abuse issues, the charges were subsequently dropped, or if they even brought, and Callum applied to have his firearms back and was told no. The police said, no, we don't think you should have your firearms back. There's enough information here to make us think that the public good is not served, but you're having a licence, so he refused. Now, Callum is perfectly entitled to, as we all are, to complain, and said, hang on a minute, I did nothing wrong, in theory, I want my guns back. He did the right thing. He instructed solicitors and barristers and took it all the way to the criminal court, and basically asked for his licence, his firearms back. And the judge said no. The judge sat back and said, no, on the balance of all things that are happening, I do not think the public safety is best served by you having a firearms licence. And that was where we are, and that's been there for several years now. So to have him elected as treasurer of the UK PSA, I thought at best was a bit odd, and at worst was an outrageous thing to represent us as members. Here's a person who's had his firearms taken away from him, okay, because of an alleged assault, and he is now a committee member of the UK PSA. And I found it a bit strange. So, as it was going through, I happened to be at SHOT Show, and I bumped into a guy called Dave Kiddle, and he came to me in almost triumphant and say, isn't it great we've got Callum elected as treasurer? It's great news for us. Now, Dave's not very good at reading people, but my shock in my face was obviously met with him saying the reason why he got elected is because they colluded with several people that he would be elected, and in return, on his his English shooting channel, he would give positive reviews to the to Dave Kiddle's product, both his range and his international touring and Callum Innovations, which he was then a director of. in return for being elected. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not a big fan of elections generally, but the idea of someone buying an elected position for the purposes of looking after your own promotion, your own product, at our expense as members, now I say our, I'm no longer a member now, so at your expense as members, I didn't think was right. So I did a video, funny that, and I basically said I was concerned about how this had happened, and I attended a meeting as an observer of the UK PSA back then, and what I saw raised greater concerns. I was shocked again about how sponsorship was treated and how it was put together and how it was controlled by people. And this was a situation where Callum was then currently treasurer and also responsible for sponsorship. Now Josh Kenny, who, again, a name you won't remember because he's been thrown out of the UK PSA as well, tried to be a sponsor of the UK PSA. He had a gunsmithing business. He's now moving to the States to get away from this place. And he tried to and was told by Callum, no, there were no sponsorships available. You couldn't sponsor the UK PSA. It was something they hadn't done. So Josh was a little strange by this and had got it in writing on email. And I got a witness statement from him confirming what had been done. So we fast forward then to the election. And I kind of figured that if we're going to go down electoral roll, that's how we change things, So I spoke to several people and I thought we need to get proper people on board in the committee, in the council, and let's work a plan. And we did. We had a variety of people stand, including Mark Derbyshire for chairman, Michael Brooks, we had Kevin, various people stood, Wendy for secretary, and there's a group of people I thought, you know what, these could make a change. The election took place, but the day before the election, Mark Derbyshire withdrew from chairmanship. The only person he was competing against was Clive. Now, I spoke to Mark and contacted him, and I basically said, look, why have you dropped out? And his official rule was, I just don't want to get involved. Unofficially and allegedly, and by various comments, he was warned that if he stood against Clive for chairman, he would have his handgun placed for South Africa suddenly removed. Mark just wanted to shoot, like the rest of us, decided it wasn't worth the grief, so withdrew, leaving Clive to be elected as, Clive Gamlis is to be elected as chairman. Now, fair enough, had some concerns, but you know what? I'll be open-minded. My only real dealings with Clive Gamlis before this was that he was an RO at our level 3 match here, for which he got the standard free entry and free food. But when he arrived, he said, oh, by the way, I need a free entry for my son, Chris, as well. And I said, well, the deal is free entry, free food for each RO. Why do you get 2? And he says, I just do. And if you don't give Chris a free entry, then I'm not going to RO. Leaving me without an RO for 2 stages. So kind of an issue. So I thought I had my card marked there by Clive at that point in time. But you know what? Free entry, free food, not exactly much around. So the elections taken place. I stood as treasurer in the whole sole only reason to make sure that Callum wasn't re-elected as treasurer. A guy called Gareth stood as well. Unfortunately, he was elected. Now, what's interesting here is that there were 2 other people. There was Andy Williams, who was the ex-chairman, which Clive replaced. And also we had Richard Clifton, who stood for PRO, for RD, who was RD then and stood for RD, and then he was standing as well. Now, I've had my reservations about Richard as well, in terms of how he's created this behemoth of training, which now is all about earning money and not about training people. But he was not elected. Kevin Strowger got in instead. And so we had a situation where everyone got on board, except we had dear old Clive rather than Mark. Now, at the course of the meeting of the AGM, and this is something to explain, Dave Smith has been criticising me this on, so I'm going to make it clear how this works. When a treasurer of an organisation presents the accounts to the committee, to the council, he is basically saying these are the accounts as they should be. Then prior to every AGM, there is a council meeting, and they then look at those accounts and they then adopt them. They basically say, thank you, Mr. Treasurer, we have this information. We will now present them to the membership, you, as saying here complete. So they had that AGM that was presented to us by the council of audited accounts for the year. And guess what? They weren't audited. They weren't audited at all. In fact, arguably they were fake. Okay, we know that, and the meeting trans out and it's transcribed there somewhere. People cleverer than me who have got accounts and degrees looked at it and said the balances are just copied over from one year to the next. That cannot happen. You can't just copy balances over. which means the accounts were not audited. Okay, that's fraud. Now, importantly here, when Callum presented those accounts to the committee, he committed fraud. Okay, he presented accounts as audited. But importantly here, when the council then presented those accounts to us, you, the membership, they committed fraud because they've taken those accounts, said they're audited, and told us they're audited as well. Now, only because there was myself, question myself, and a few other people said, hang on, they're not audited. Did it suddenly get changed? And all of a sudden, oh, we can't present these audited, and going from there. So all my comments about fraud and collusion and, frankly, corruption were accurate. Absolutely bobbed to the ground, accurate, each one. Now, election took place. Gareth got on board as new treasurer. Clive was there as chairman. And I thought, you know what, let's just see how it pans out. Quite happy to that. And I took my video down. I took it down from YouTube, said, look, we're done now, change of procedure. Now, do you know what Clive did as chairman's first one? He appointed Andy Williams, who has stood down from chairman, and his friend Richard Clifton as vice presidents with full voting rights. So these people who you voted not to have in council, Clive's first job was put them straight back in again with full voting. All right, you can't make this up. You really can't. So I looked at this and I thought, you know what, I give up. Bottom line, you know, these guys are going to keep twisting it and making money what they can on the UK PSA using the money that we have put into, because I did put in, I count that as me, and they're using it for their own personal gains, to have their own little fiefdom of run shooting for their own personal requirements. So, move on from there. Days after that, I get a fairly stroppy post on Facebook from Andy Williams, which I've got it here. By the way, all the documents I'm going to refer to here are going to be linked in the video, full there on our website to peruse your own time. Okay, so this is the first one. This is basically saying my video was terribly libelous and I'm lying through my teeth and what an awful person I am, to retract it immediately. Okay, my response to this was, frankly, fuck off. Okay, everything I said was true. If you've got a problem with what I said, then give me the evidence against it. And funnily, nothing happened at all. So we carry on. These guys are still vice principals, vice presidents. They're still voting across the board. And as a result of that, you know what, moved on. However, next document was from the UK PSA, basically saying they are calling me they are concerned about my video and I should provide evidence for it, which I then did. Send all the information on from them. And again, heard nothing. A typical black out to us. Then I get to June. So nothing's happened. I've been shooting, competing, head down, no videos out, just doing the bit where I was supposed to do. And suddenly in June, I get a formal complaint. Now, let's bypass the fact that any formal complaint in the UK PSA must be done within 30 days of the event. So January to June is a bit more than 30 days. But you know what? I didn't even bleat about that. As far as I'm concerned, I'd rather it was out in the open and discussed rather than this. And the complaint basically says, I've made false and malicious allegations to a variety of people. I'm a terrible person. Oh, and here's the fun bit. Right at the end, the association may review whether your actions demonstrate the character, trustworthiness, and habits expected of a firearm certificate holder. Obligation to notify authorities are concerned of a certified manner. So they threatened my firearms license. The fact I made a complaint about corruption and that they have decided to challenge that. And they said, we're going to, by the way, we can report you to FAC. Now, I did what every proper FAC holder should do at that point in time, is take that letter and simply forward it to my firearms inquiry officer team in Northampton Police and simply said, just to let you know, this has happened. So fast forward from here, nothing had processed, everything went quiet. Then eventually I get notification. So we have various pleadings and arguments back and forth and bits of paper go back and forth. I don't see any of this. And it comes down to they come back with the conclusion saying, by the way, we have had the outcome of this disciplinary, which I didn't see any data at all, any conversation in the slightest, came back saying, by the way, we decided to give you a warning. So my reply back was, warning for what? What is it have I done exactly? And by the way, can you please provide me with the evidence against me, because I've not seen any at all. And here's what gets more interesting. So I've got an email here, and again it'll be linked into here, from Janina White, with Clive Gamlin as the source, who CC'd in the email, basically saying, we're concerned about your mental health. I'll let you read this through. You're concerned about mental health. We're concerned about your conduct. We think we need to have the contact details of your firearms inquiry officer so we can report you, basically, because we think you are not certified to hold a firearm. So now a direct threat. So I've one threat talking about it, now threatening me again. And when I go back and say, are you threatening me? I get another email, again here, basically saying, we must ensure your well-being is protected. I mean, now they're after me. Now they're making sure I'm okay. That's very good of you. And saying, and finally, the common to work together with justice to make sure you are safe for yourself and the public. You know, the irony that I'm being sent an email saying, am I safe for the public, is just not lost on me at all. Now, obviously, I did the same thing. I passed all this documentation to my firearms inquiry team, explain it, and they go through. Now, this has happened in the past. They have threatened people in UK PSA past in terms of where they challenge things or they complain of what's going on. And it's their process. Now, just so you know, I'm the last person they can try and get. Okay, I now work with 7 different police forces in the UK, including our senior counter-terrorism teams in training. Okay, if you don't think I'm not background checked more than the Pope, then the threatening me with a firearms license makes no sense to me at all. I'm also a DoD contractor in the States, involving all kinds of agencies there who I can't even call, also background checked. Okay, if there was any kind of mental health issue for me, pretty sure I'd know about it. So moving on, so we have this process and we have this complaint, we have this warning that they still can't give me. I complain about this, nothing happens again. And again, we move on, I'm quietly doing my own thing. Then the World Championship comes around. Now, I always wanted to shoot the World Championship, but a fact of this and the fact I got injured with an assault on a property, which just meant I have pins and leads left hand now, meant I didn't shoot enough, well, didn't qualify, I wasn't good enough, point blank. So I thought my chances are over, I'm not going to shoot the World Championship. And then as it turns out, there are some empty spaces. They allocate a team to the people who had the right criteria. Lee Hopgood is announced as the team captain or principal or national squad director and selected out the team. And it was great, well done those. And they had 5 or 6 places left over in our allocation. So I applied. I said, well, look, I don't qualify because I haven't shot enough or shot well enough, frankly, but I'd like to come. Can I come? No, not allowed. I said, well, what for? It's all nothing written or formal on this one. So there's Ed and there was James and myself with the next 3 to qualify in terms of scores. And they had a meeting, which is minuted, and it basically says, Ed, fine, James, fine, John, no, don't want him. So I go, well, hang on a minute. So I have conversations with the council members and they all say, look, this is a put-up job, mate. There's no reason why you can't go. You're not under disciplinary. You qualify in terms of shooting. You have all the points you need to score. You should be going. So I apply again. I say, can I come to the World Championship? No, can't again. So I then have a phone call conversation with Clive. And it basically says, look, I don't know why you're doing this. I've said nothing since the video. You've got a disciplinary which gave me a warning which you can't tell me what for. What's going on? And Clive basically says to me, look, John, if you're a good boy and keep your head down, we'll let you go. I mean, more of a schoolboy, schoolmaster type conversation you couldn't have. And it typifies exactly what Clive and his cohort of people, Andy Williams and Richard Clifton, and now Lee Hopgood, they control the sport by their own little personal fiefdoms, which makes it really impossible to do anything you want to in terms of shooting. But you know what? I thought, no, what? Fine. I'll keep my head down. I'll shut my mouth. I just want to shoot like everybody else. So they let me on the team with great, wonderful manners. Now, in that meeting, there was a meeting to discuss it. And I was allowed to present myself why I should be allowed to go. And the vote was, okay, fine, I can go. Now, I got in because there was no grounds for not to let me. And I basically said, if you don't let me in now, then I'll make this public to the membership. So they had no choice, but they get me in. But in that same meeting, there's a conversation with Lee Hopgood leading, talking about the squad and the teams and the process behind it. And in this meeting, he announced rather blasé, he said, oh, by the way, we have a hat sponsorship deal where we can have branded hats on our team clothing, and I've given it to Magload. Okay, now very important is just giving it. No money, no value, no process. And in the meeting, he says, I haven't got the bandwidth to look at other sponsors, so I'm just going to give it to Magload. Now, if you look at the World Championship team and all the process, there was no branding allowed in any clothing at all, except for the baseball cap. So that one piece of real estate, which has the greatest of value to the UK PSA, and frankly, your money, was given away to Magload sponsorship for free. Now, I'll tell you right now the reason why that is because Lee Hopgood gets kit free from Magload. Okay, yes, Magload stickers on his bag, and everything else is there. He's sponsored by Magload. Now, Lee in the meeting when I complain about this, said I'm not sponsored. Lee, just to be absolutely clear, if someone gives you something for free, you're sponsored. That's how it works. It's not rocket science. So I thought, I watched this meeting, I thought, not happy with that, you know, let alone the fact that the guy who owns Magload is still a restricted firearms holder. But you know what? That's what it's going to be. the hats are going to Maglo, no big deal. During the course of conversations, competitions, I made it clear that I didn't feel happy wearing a hat wearing a Maglo brand on it. And then I get a message from Lee, basically says, just to remind you, John, if you're a member of the national squad for UK, you have to wear this hat when we tell you, you must wear it. Now, so not only have I got a sponsorship where the UK PSA has gained no value at all, where it's been put together by a guy who gets free kit from them, and now all the team is being forced to wear it, even though they may not have much of association with Maglo themselves, it's now getting to a point where we really are back to the corruption again. So we had this process, and then we moved on from here, and I was quietly thinking, what shall I do about this hat? You know, I hadn't decided yet. So then there's a WhatsApp group being created for the World Championship group, all for the shooters, all to discuss things like training and branding and various bits, etc. And Lee also creates a new group called Banter, World Championship Banter. So this WhatsApp group's created. There's only there's exactly 7 people in it, plus myself. There's 9 in total because I had 2 logins on Trajan, 2 phone numbers on WhatsApp. And it had gone very quiet. There was no one in there at all. It was all very quiet. And Lee created the group and then created a post saying, nothing going on here. We need some fun in here, guys, or words to that effect. So I'm at a trade show at the time. I'm doing enforced tack with the targets. So I'm spending my time with army and military police. And I said, okay, right, I'll put a little meme up there. Now, I won't share the contents of the meme because I'd be doing the same thing again. But if you want to type in Google nuns exploding from fingering, you'll get a rough idea what kind of comment it was. It was definitely offensive, okay? It was rude, okay? And it was placed in the wrong group. I meant to place it in a group I was talking to at the time and happened in the wrong one. Now, my fault, my bad, I got it wrong, a process. As soon as I found out, Lee immediately jumped there and said, pretty much, this is outrageous, John. You shouldn't put this down. You need to take it down. So I log back in, I delete it down. I say, really sorry, guys, wrong group. Apologies if I offended anybody. Okay. Within an hour, I had a phone call from Lee saying that he had received numerous complaints from people about the meme and I was removed from the national squad for New Rifle. My response was, well, that's a bit quick. I said, you know, I one post, apologised, took it down, 7 people saw it. No, John, I have numerous complaints. And the council, that's important, the council have decided that you should be removed from the national squad for the team. Now, I was quite impressed that in an hour, the council had convened, met and decided to kick me off the team. Okay, and I was quite impressed with that. So I call a few of the council members, nothing about it, no, nothing about it at all. Okay, so I challenged Lee on this one and he says, oh, you got an appeal. You can appeal if you want to appeal. It's like, okay, fine, I'll appeal, no problem at all. Before my appeal is even heard, Clive, remember him, puts a post on the UK PSA site saying I had been removed, doesn't name me, but it doesn't need to name you to be libelous. I'd be removed for racist content across with a big statement, which is still there now, all right? It's still libelous and I can still sue for it, but I'll explain why I haven't done in a second. So I thought, okay, so this is a complaint from Lee. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to call all the people in that group. And I did. There was 7 in total plus me and 2, so 9 in total. I rang every single one. And I said, look, first of all, very sorry if you're offended by this meme. It was an accident putting it in, I apologise. Of those 7 people, I found one person I spoke to, Alistair Mustard, and he said, yes, I was a bit offended, to be fair. It was a bit beyond the pale, but not enough to complain about. In fact, he was told that the committee member asked him to complain, and he said, no, wasn't that big a deal. Yes, I was offended, but thank you for your apology, John. We'll move on. I'm fine. 2 people have refused to reply to my emails and phone calls, Paul Wyborn and Jim Starley. So I'm going to make the assumption they both complained. Okay, so Jim Starley and Paul Wyborn complained to Lee, and those 3 people got me kicked off the mini rifle team. And you know what? If that's the case, so be it. All right, I put a small meme in a small group of 7 people, and let's say 3 people offended by that process. There was a group called Banter. Yeah, I got it wrong. It was a mistake. They refused to accept the mistake and kicked me off the team. Now, the bare minimum's a bit overkill, but you know what? That's what it is, okay? The fact I wasn't given an appeal and then I was outed on the UK PSA website as a racist is outrageous, but that's how they work it. So again, I'm off the team. I wish my fellow guys good luck. Off I go and I move on again. So then I get the next one, which is a email from Clive basically saying they are putting together a process to remove me from the UK PSA. And I said, well, okay, fine. So there should be disciplinary. No, we're not using disciplinary. What we're going to do is we're going to cancel your membership. You sort of refuse to renew your membership. And I go, fine, well, I've just renewed, so we'll chat to in a year's time then. Oh, no, we don't need to wait. We can just cancel membership anytime we like. And I'm looking through it, and they've created this another rule that basically says they can get rid of someone who don't like you. So again, we have another meeting, we sit back again. This is a kangaroo court at the best times. And Clive chairs this meeting by saying, John, go. And I'm like, what do you mean go? I said, you're trying to get rid of me because what you believe is vexatious, and the word is act conduct. What is it I've done? Tell me what I've done, and I'll either justify it or apologise for it. Oh, it's not our position to you to explain it. You tell us why you should be a member. And I go, well, I am a member, so you want to get rid of me, where's the information otherwise? Any point blank refuse? Nothing given at all. Dave Smith shouts to me saying that I'm talking bollocks about corruption. I think I've answered that now, Dave. Look up the word corruption if I were you. And so the petition comes through, they kick me out for vexatious behaviour. Now here's what gets slightly more interesting in Twee. They're basically saying that the reason for removing the UK PSA is partly because of my disruptive process. Now you've seen from all this, I put one video on which turned out to be factually accurate and did nothing more. Everything else I've defended myself from a disciplinary committee, which I was successful in, with a warning with no reason given for it, and I've done nothing since. There's no way I've been caused any more time. I made one request for information about me, which they refused. So apparently my vexatious behaviour, I'd imagine, could do with this so-called racist meme that I mistakenly put in their group. So I said, okay, fine. So I did research required. And here, I can't show it to you here, but it's popping up on the screen now, is a post shared by your current chairman, Clive Gamlin, where he shares a very clear racist Facebook post talking about banning the burqa. Now, I don't know about you, talking about nuns exploding from fingering is rude and offensive, but it's not racist. It's not talking about race at all. Ask anyone who knows me. The joke is John's not racist, he hates everybody. But to put something on banning the burqa, which is a religious garment that you only wear for religion, is by definition a racist comment to make. And I mentioned this in my meeting. I say, hang on, Clive, you're kicking me out because you say I'm racist, and it was this. Now, I expected Clive to go, oh, it was 5 years, 10 years ago, I'm a different person now. But he didn't. He doubles down on it. He goes, I genuinely believe that. I think the burqa should be banned. And I'm like, well, okay, you're entitled to your opinion, as we all are, but you're chairman of a shooting organisation. You can't have that opinion. What about our Muslim members? Maybe it might offend them. So the whole idea is that you're getting me out for being racist and you're happy to share and double down on a racist statement. That's what we've got. We've got a chairman and we've got Lee Hopgood, who are simply putting up the idea of trying to get control of the association for their own personal needs. Dragging on lines people like Richard Clifton to go along and try and do what you want. So we've got an election coming up. It's past tense for me. They've got me out. Amazingly, they got me out before the AGM, so I can't attend or speak or ask questions, so that'll be it. So now it's down to you guys, right? You're the membership, it's your association. And so a couple of things to think about is, number one, ask yourself why you're a member of the UK PSA, okay? My hope is, number one, is you want to promote our sport, okay? The sport of practical shooting needs us to promote our own sport. That's what you're there for. Tell me how our association, with a racist chairman and a power-crazed national squad director and a number of other people simply doing it to earn their own money, is promoting our sport. Okay, got to ask the question. I'm not saying it's true. There are hundreds of people in the UK PSA who are brilliant. ROs, range masters, they're brilliant. And they're friends of all of them, and I have huge respect for all of them. But their name is being dragged down by these small group of people. And it's this group of people I think you, the members, need to get rid of. So election coming up, so process. So anybody who votes for Clive Gamlin as chairman needs their head examining. And certainly you want to take your burqa off, okay? Because the idea of having him as elected for UK PSA makes no sense at all. Anybody who elects the idea of Lee Hopgood to be any kind of representation when his entire mentality is based on seizing as much control as you can, is, again, just beyond the pale, okay? So you've got Martin Spence standing for chairman. Please vote for him, okay? Martin is NROI, he's all about the rules, very stickler for the rules in terms of competitions, and he's been criticised for that, but I generally think he wants the sport to do well, and I think he wants to do away from that. Please vote for him, okay? I have no control anymore, I'm not involved. Please vote for him. And all the others, just don't vote for Lee Hopgood in that position, anyone. This is a man who takes free stuff from a sponsor and then deliberately manipulates people to get his own sense of control. Okay, it's not worth having. The rest of them, they're all pretty good. You know, there's someone not standing a process behind it, give them the best they can. But while we're thinking about electing, think of that second thing. Clive Gamblin runs a business, or as a director of a business called Castlemead Insurance Brokers. Castlemead Insurance Brokers handle the insurance for the UK PSA. Okay, it's the second reason we remember UK PSA, having your insurance cover. Okay, and there are great bones we made about how good our insurance cover is. Okay, and how there's 800 odd members, what a good deal they have. Okay, 2 phone calls, 1 email, and I've got together a deal with a company called 3 Counties, 3C they're called, for a shooting policy for us, their standard policy that'll cost you 35 quid. Same cover. Okay, if you want to get cover for your license being removed for allegedly beating up your wife in a pub car park, then it's 60 quid. Okay, funnily it's a higher premium. But if you're a normal gun owner like myself, and generally don't beat people up in car parks, allegedly, you don't need that cover. So 35 quid covers your liability cover shooting. You haven't got to join anything. So ask yourself that. If you're a member of the UK PSA because you promote practical shooting, what are they promoting and how they're doing it? B, if you're a member because you want the insurance, there you go. There's a link down here somewhere. Get it. No requirement of membership, nothing at all across the board. And in that 35 quid, they're even giving us 5 quid to put together for training and 3 days for people. Okay, so if you don't want to pay that, net it down, you're down to 30 quid. And the third reason for being a membership is shooting overseas. Now, hands up here who shoots overseas. Okay, of the 800 people there, I know about 50. So there's no reason to join. Now, I'm not suggesting you don't renew, but I'm suggesting if these people stay in control, you shouldn't renew. There's no reason to be this. This is not an organisation that represents us at all. The way they look after and threaten people with FACs. If there's anyone other than me, they're rolled over. Okay, the threat for the FAC will scare life out of anyone I know. The only fact is life, I do more work police forces here and overseas than anybody else. Okay, so whatever threat they're going to give me, the only response was laughter. Okay, this brings down to my last little bit. Now this is a warning. Okay, I could very easily sue a number of people here for libel. It's what I used to do for a living as a libel litigator. And I haven't done, for mainly the reason is that under any libel case, you've got to show it's untrue. You've got to show it's malicious, and you've got to show you've suffered damage. Okay, I can show what they're saying is untrue very easily. I did that already, and I can do it again. I can show it's malicious, because frankly, they are malicious. They're trying to show here. But I can't show damage. The reason why is when I pointed this out to the police and said my earnings or I had been damaged by these reports, the police response one of just amusement. You know, to quote one chief firearms instructor, why on earth are they having a go at you, John? You do more work with us than somebody else does. Why on earth would there be any kind of risk of that? So I can't show damage. So if I do sue, I'll win, and I'll win £1. So pointless. A couple £100 with legal fees, which I'm more than happy to fund to win £1 back. So I haven't bothered. However, if I hear or see or understand that Lee or Clive or anyone else there, Richard and Andy, or Dave, come through and try and challenge what I said by calling me a liar, okay, I will sue, okay, because you're going to call me a liar, there is damage, and I will sue you personally, not the UK PSA, you, and I'll be going for your house. So be very clear about what you're saying about me after this. Okay, you may have got rid of me, I'm out now, and you know what, I'm enjoying my shooting. We're doing lots of stuff with the NRA, we have lots of matches here, and we have a great time. In actual fact, getting rid of the UK PSA and investing in to some extent. I'd love to come back, because I like shooting other matches, but that would be the only reason for it. But please don't take the point that the fact I've done this, that I'm not prepared to defend myself for my attacks from far, but it'll be legally, and it'll be you personally. Everybody else, I'm sorry to drag it through, I'm sorry it's a process, I'm sorry it's a long video, but the fact of life is I'm not alone. There have been a dozen people before me who've been thrown out the UK PSA for all similar reasons. The difference is A, they can't really get me on my FAC, and B, I don't believe in being bullied around by people like this. I can't do anything about it now, but you as a membership have the chance to elect those people who can be good, and if you get some good people on board, you know what, maybe it can be recovered. Maybe we can get rid of these people who are looking at it just for themselves and more about the association going further forward. I wish you the best of luck. In the meantime, I'll look to see out circuit and shooting where we just enjoy yourself shooting guns at targets. Okay, cheers.